Offline in love. The last thing Alana Greer remembered was reading a comment aloud, "You're glowing, queen," before her vision went blurry and her limbs turned to jelly. Right there in the middle of a live stream with half the internet watching, her body gave out. The ring light flickered. Her phone clattered. Alana collapsed. That clip made it to TikTok in seconds. By morning, memes were trending. #Alana offline. The joke was that she finally took her own advice. Only, she hadn't meant to. She didn't tell her agent or her assistant. Just packed Miso, her snarky Pomeranian, some oversized sunglasses, and a too expensive overnight bag. Then she drove north until the signal bars on her phone vanished. She landed in Willow Creek, a sleepy town off the map, draped in fog and flannel. It felt like time had stopped somewhere around 2003. A crooked bookstore caught her eye. "The Raven's Nest," read the sign, charmingly hand-painted, hanging above ivy-covered windows. Inside, it smelled like ink, cedar, and cinnamon. If she's going to be offline for a while, she has to keep herself occupied with other things, otherwise she'll go insane from boredom. Alana stepped in, and the bell above the door gave a chime, like a secret being whispered. Behind the register stood a man in a forest green sweater, adjusting a stack of battered paperbacks. He looked up, blinked, and said, "So, which fairy tale are you hiding from?" Alana froze. Her disguise, a scarf and zero makeup, had worked everywhere else. Philip Morgan didn't even pretend not to recognize her. "You're Alana Greer," he said simply. "Queen of serums, digital burnout princess." "I don't know what you're talking about," she muttered. "Right, and I didn't just alphabetize the enemies to lovers section by heat level." That made her blink. By heat level? He held up a flyer. "Help wanted, bookstore modernization project. Volunteer needed." "I won't tell anyone you're here," Philip said, "if you help with this." And just like that, the oddest truce began. He wanted to digitize the inventory, make a website, and lure in a younger crowd. But his tech skills were tragic. The website he'd tried to build looked like a cursed WordPress template. The shop's Facebook page had 4 likes, 3 of which were his mother. Alana sighed. "Okay, but I have rules." "Shoot." No social media mentions, no hashtags, no spotted Alana Greer. Scout's honor. Alana rolled her eyes. "You even know what that means?" "Loosely. I assume it involves regret and a sash." She smirked. "You're ridiculous. And yet, here you are. She should have walked. She didn't." The days bloomed slow and full. Alana rearranged dusty shelves and created curated romance displays. Second chances swoon, enemies to espresso, rainy day reads. She ordered fairy lights, brought in velvet cushions, suggested a blind date with a book wall. Alana taught Philip how to record a day-in-the-life video featuring his morning ritual of hand-grinding coffee, flipping the open sign, and reading poetry before customers arrived. He, in turn, showed her how to repair the spine of an old Hemingway novel. She caught him once, carefully brushing off crumbs from a copy of Pride and Prejudice, muttering, "She'd kill me if I ruined this one." "She?" she asked. "You." They didn't talk about big things, yet, but the small things. She noticed he always brewed her tea just the way she liked. Extra strong, dash of honey. He realized she stocked the fantasy section with books she knew he loved, sword-wielding heroines and subtle romances with depth. She stayed after hours to help him fix a creaky display. He ordered a hand-warmer cushion for Miso's crate without asking. They bantered. A lot. But beneath it all was something gentle, unsaid, growing. Philip invited her to the farmer's market as a business meeting. She wore flannel and jeans. He wore a real smile. They wandered between stalls of lavender soaps and fresh-baked pies. He bought her an apple cider donut. She pretended not to notice him watching her take the first bite. "Don't romanticize me," she teased. "I'm just a girl with powdered sugar on her nose." "Too late," he said, brushing it off her cheek. It happened in pieces, her laughter echoing through the shop. The way he'd find her curled in the reading nook, asleep with a book on her lap. The way she'd gently tell him the how-tos on his website, and he'd let her. One night, she stayed late. Rain pelted the windows. They opened wine. He played jazz on vinyl. They read aloud from Persuasion. Philip paused mid-passage. "I like this one," he said. "Steady love. The kind that waits. The kind that stays." Alana looked at him. The words sat between them like a held breath. Miso was curled up by the heater. The shop smelled of old pages and chai. Philip turned to her. His voice dropped. "You don't have to be her anymore. You can just be... here." She didn't speak, just looked at him, heart thrumming. And then she leaned in. So did he. The kiss wasn't perfect. It was soft, real, like the first page of a long book you already know you'll love. The next morning, it all unraveled. Some tourist snapped a photo. "Alana Greer spotted in small-town hideaway," the headline screamed. Reporters camped outside. Drones buzzed. Her old manager called. A beauty brand offered her triple to come back. An apology tour, a redemption arc. Philip said nothing. He just looked at her like he was waiting for her to choose. "I didn't plan any of this," she snapped. "I'm not her anymore, but I'm not this either." "Then what are you?" The question cracked something open. She stood frozen between two worlds, the glossy, airbrushed universe where she'd once reigned, and this fragile, paper-scented haven she had stumbled into. Inside, a war raged. If she stayed, she'd have peace, yes. But who was she without the glitter, the followers, the empire she had built one sponsored post at a time? Was she brave enough to become a woman who folded bookstore receipts, who burned her tongue on too hot chai, who kissed a man who smelled faintly of cedar and ink? If she left, she knew the script by heart. Press releases, rehearsed apologies, staged smiles. She would glow again, but only under lights designed to bleach out every flaw. She would rise, but she would not rest. Her breath hitched. She wanted both. She wanted neither. She wanted herself, whoever that was now. She glanced at Philip. He stood steady as if the storm outside couldn't touch him. But his eyes, they told her he wasn't asking her to pick him. He was asking her to pick truth, and she didn't know how. Her throat burned. "I can't," she whispered, more to herself than him. The bell above the door chimed as she pushed through, leaving the scent of cinnamon, cedar, and almost love behind. Outside, cameras flashed. The noise swallowed her whole. She thought she had taken everything when she left, the latte, her scarf, her defenses. But in her rush, she hadn't realized Miso had stayed curled up by the heater. That night, a knock echoed against the door of her rented cottage. She opened it to find Philip standing there, the little Pomeranian bundled in his arms, wrapped in the hand-knit blanket from the bookstore's reading nook. Miso wriggled the moment he saw her, but Philip didn't let go right away. His gaze lingered on Alana, searching, soft, steady. "You forgot something," he said. His voice wasn't accusing. It was gentle, almost resigned. Alana's throat tightened. She reached for Miso, burying her face in the dog's fur, letting the familiar warmth ground her. "I didn't mean to," she started. "I know," Philip interrupted. "You don't have to explain. Not to me." She looked up then, eyes stinging. He was standing on her doorstep like some tragic knight, framed by fog and moonlight, hands still curled as if reluctant to let go of more than just the dog. "Philip." But the words tangled. What could she promise? What could she give when she didn't even know who she was outside the spotlight? So he spoke instead, each word carefully chosen. I won't chase you. Not into the noise. You have to find your own quiet first. When you do, if you do, I'll be here. It wasn't a plea. It was release. He stepped back, giving her space, giving her miso, giving her the freedom to leave, even if it meant leaving him behind. And then he turned and walked into the fog, not once looking back. Miso whimpered in her arms. Alana held him tighter, tears spilling silently down her cheeks. She whispered into his fur, I don't even know if I'm strong enough to come back. The night gave no answer. Back in LA, her old life swallowed her whole. Emails, photo shoots, timelines, people smiling with teeth that never reached their eyes. Her inbox overflowed with contracts, her DMs with fake concern. Paparazzi still lingered outside, their lenses hungry for the narrative, the fallen influencer crawling back to her empire. Alana moved through it all like a ghost. Miso padded at her heels, ever faithful. But she couldn't stop replaying the memory of Philip standing at her cottage door. You have to find your own quiet first. The words echoed louder than any brand offer or apology script. He hadn't begged. He hadn't bargained. He'd just given her the one thing no one else in her world ever had: permission to choose. And she had chosen noise. Some nights she sat beneath the ring light, staring at her reflection in the phone camera. She knew exactly how to tilt her chin, how to soften her voice, how to sell a redemption arc. But she couldn't make herself press record. Not anymore. Instead, she turned the light off and sat in the dark, Miso curled in her lap, her mind caught between two worlds. On a whim one evening, she searched the bookstore's Instagram. She half expected it to be barren, gathering dust like the shop's forgotten shelves. It wasn't. A teenage girl had posted about her visit to the Raven's Nest. She'd tagged a photo of a book titled Falling Softly with the caption, Found my favorite place on earth. The guy who runs it reads aloud in the evenings, like, who does that? Alana's breath caught. She could see it. Philip's voice weaving through the aisles, steady and low, reading to strangers the way he once read to her. Her chest ached with something sharp and tender. The world she had run back to felt hollow, and the one she had left behind was still living, still breathing, without her. Miso pawed her hand as if urging her forward. For the first time in weeks, Alana let herself whisper the question she had been avoiding. What if my quiet isn't here? What if it's still waiting in Willow Creek? She came back in the middle of the afternoon. Philip was restocking a delivery of indie romance novels. He didn't look up at first. Then the bell above the door chimed. She stood there, wind-tousled and breathless, clutching a latte in one hand and Miso in the other. Hey, she said. I figured out the ending. He turned slowly, eyes wide, voice careful. To what? To us, she said. If you're still writing it with me. He didn't speak. Just crossed the floor in 3 strides and kissed her like a man who'd waited. And maybe he had. They renamed the corner cafe Miso Brews, held midnight readathons, story time for seniors. Alana went back online, yes, but this time it was different. She posted pictures of favorite book passages, her chipped mug of tea, her dog in a sweater. Not curated, not filtered, just real. Philip started writing again. His first novel? A small-town love story about a grumpy bookseller and a runaway star. She edited every word. They kissed in the stacks, argued about shelf organization, slow danced behind the poetry section. One evening, a customer asked if they believed in fairy tales. Alana smiled and said, "Only the ones we write ourselves."